Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table on a Tuesday morning, coffee going cold in your hands, staring at a birth announcement in the local newspaper. And there it is, your husband's name next to another woman's name, announcing a baby boy. Not your baby boy, someone else's baby boy. That's exactly what happened to Sarah Mitchell one ordinary morning that would shatter everything she thought she knew about her life. But what she did next, nobody saw it coming. Not her friends, not her family, and certainly not her husband. This is a story about betrayal, yes, but it's also about something far more unexpected. Something that will make you question everything you think you know about love, loyalty, and what it means to stand up for yourself when the entire foundation of your world crumbles beneath your feet. Sarah and David Mitchell had what everyone called the perfect marriage. 14 years together, 2 beautiful children, Emma and Lucas, a modest but comfortable home in a quiet suburban neighborhood where everyone knew everyone's business, or so they thought. David worked in sales, which meant he traveled a lot. 3, sometimes 4 nights a week, he'd kiss Sarah goodbye, promise to call from the hotel, and disappear into a world she never questioned. Why would she? He was her husband, the father of her children, the man who still brought her flowers on random Tuesdays and remembered how she liked her coffee. Sarah worked part-time at the local library, a job she loved because it let her be home when the kids got off the school bus. Their life had a rhythm to it, predictable and safe. Soccer practice on Wednesdays, date night every other Friday when David was in town, Sunday morning pancakes with the kids fighting over who got the last blueberry. But underneath that Norman Rockwell painting of domestic bliss, cracks were forming that Sarah couldn't see. David had been quieter lately, more distracted. He'd started taking his phone into the bathroom, keeping it face down on the nightstand. Small things, the kind of things you notice but tell yourself you're being paranoid about. Until that Tuesday morning when paranoia became crystal clear reality. Sarah wasn't looking for anything when she picked up the newspaper that morning. She rarely even read it anymore, preferring to get her news online. But there it was, folded on the kitchen counter where David must have left it before his latest business trip. She flipped through mindlessly, sipping her coffee, until she reached the birth announcements. A habit from when her own children were born, she still liked reading them, imagining the joy of new parents bringing their babies home. Then she saw it. David Michael Mitchell and Jennifer Hayes are pleased to announce the arrival of their son, Nathan David Mitchell, born October 8th, 7 pounds, 4 ounces. The coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the tile floor. But Sarah didn't hear it. She didn't hear anything except the roaring in her ears as she read that line again and again and again. David Michael Mitchell. Her David Michael Mitchell. Because how many David Michael Mitchells could there possibly be in our small town? Her hands shaking, Sarah grabbed her laptop and searched the hospital's website, typing in David's name with fingers that felt like they belonged to someone else. And there they were. Not just one photo, but dozens. David holding a tiny baby boy. David standing next to a woman Sarah had never seen before, both of them beaming at the camera. David kissing this stranger's forehead while she cradled their newborn son. But it got worse, so much worse, because when Sarah scrolled further, she found another birth announcement from 18 months earlier, a baby girl named Lily, same last name, same parents. Her husband hadn't just had an affair, he'd built an entire second life, a second family, with 2 children, living just 15 minutes from the home where Sarah had been raising their kids half the week, believing every lie about client meetings and hotel rooms and business conferences. For 3 days, Sarah didn't confront him. She couldn't. Every time she looked at David, she saw a stranger wearing her husband's face. She moved through her life like a ghost, making lunches, helping with homework, smiling when the kids told her about their day, all while her mind raced with a single question: how? How had he done this? How had he maintained two separate families, two separate lives, without either of them knowing each other? How many times had he kissed her goodbye and driven straight to another woman's arms? How many times had he tucked their children into bed and then left to tuck two other children into bed? The logistics alone made her head spin. But Sarah was nothing if not thorough. She'd always been the organized one, the planner, the person who kept track of everyone's schedules and dentist appointments and permission slips. So she used those same skills to become a detective in her own marriage. She found Jennifer Hayes on social media, a teacher, pretty in an ordinary way with a warm smile that made Sarah's stomach twist. Her profile was mostly private, but she could see enough. Birthday posts for the love of my life, photos of family barbecues and trips to the zoo, a life that looked exactly like Sarah's own life, unfolding in parallel just miles away. She drove past Jennifer's house, a small ranch-style home with a swing set in the backyard. She sat in her car 3 houses down, watching as Jennifer carried groceries inside, a toddler on her hip. Later, she saw David's car pull into the driveway, watched him get out, kiss Jennifer on the front porch, and lift the little girl into his arms. The same arms that held their daughter Emma every night before bed. The confrontation happened on a Saturday. David came home from what he'd told Sarah was a regional sales conference. He was unpacking his suitcase, humming some tuneless melody, when Sarah walked into their bedroom and placed the newspaper on the bed. "Congratulations," she said, her voice eerily calm. "It's a boy." The color drained from David's face so quickly, Sarah thought he might faint. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. The silence stretched between them like a canyon, wide and impossible to cross. "Sarah, I can explain." "Can you? Can you explain how you have 2 other children? Can you explain how you've been living with another woman for God knows how long, while I've been here raising our kids believing every single lie that came out of your mouth?" What followed was ugly. David tried every angle. It wasn't what it looked like. He'd been planning to tell her. He loved both families. He couldn't choose. The excuses piled up like garbage, each one more pathetic than the last. But then David said something that changed everything. He said, "Jennifer doesn't know about you either." That's when Sarah made a decision that nobody expected. Not David, not herself. She was going to find Jennifer Hayes and tell her everything. But when Sarah showed up at Jennifer's door 3 days later, something shifted. Jennifer opened the door holding baby Nathan, with little Lily peeking out behind her legs, and Sarah saw it immediately. The same exhaustion in her eyes, the same confusion that must have been written all over Sarah's own face. "You're her," she said quietly. It wasn't a question. "You knew?" Sarah asked. Jennifer's laugh was bitter. "I figured it out last week. Found a birthday card from your daughter in his car. Emma, right?" They stood there on the front porch, 2 women who should have been enemies, united by the same devastating truth. And instead of the screaming match Sarah had expected, instead of the territorial rage that should have exploded between them, something else happened. Jennifer invited her inside. They talked for 4 hours that first day, compared notes like scientists working on the same problem from different angles. The travel schedule that David had given each of them perfectly complemented the other. When he told Sarah he was traveling for work, he was with Jennifer. When he told Jennifer he was traveling for work, he was with Sarah. "She told me his ex-wife died," Jennifer said, tears streaming down her face. "He said he was raising Emma and Lucas alone until he met me, that I saved him from his grief. I told him his first marriage was a mistake, said you were just a colleague until things got complicated. They'd both been lied to. Both manipulated, both convinced they were the only ones. And that's when Sarah made her second unexpected decision. She wasn't going to destroy Jennifer, she was going to work with her. What happened next was something straight out of a movie. Sarah and Jennifer became partners. Not friends exactly, not at first, but allies in unraveling the web of lies David had spun around both of their lives. They discovered things that made their initial shock seem quaint. David had separate bank accounts, separate credit cards, separate insurance policies. He'd listed Jennifer's address as his primary residence on some documents and Sarah's on others. He'd even filed taxes separately from both of them, claiming different dependents. The financial deception was staggering. David had been taking money from both households, from both women, telling each of them that sales were down, that times were tight, that they needed to budget carefully. Meanwhile, he'd been maintaining 2 mortgages, 2 car payments, 2 full lives. But Sarah and Jennifer were meticulous. They documented everything, every lie, every receipt, every contradiction. They met in coffee shops and parks, their children playing together while they built their case. Emma and Lucas meeting their half-siblings without understanding the complex web that connected them all. And slowly, impossibly, something else happened too. These 2 women who should have hated each other started to understand each other. They'd both fallen for the same man, believed the same promises, built their lives around the same lies. They weren't enemies. They were victims of the same cruel deception. The revelation came 2 months into their partnership. Jennifer found something that changed everything. She'd been going through old photos and found one from a company Christmas party David had attended. In the background, barely visible, was another woman, a third woman, on David's arm. Sarah felt the floor drop out from under her again. She whispered, "How many?" They dug deeper, found evidence of at least 1 more relationship, possibly 2. Women David had been seeing, maybe even living with, in different cities where he claimed to have long-term clients. The scope of his deception wasn't just stunning, it was pathological. David Mitchell hadn't just been cheating on his wife, he'd been running what amounted to a con game, using women's trust and love as currency, building elaborate lies to maintain multiple lives across multiple cities. When they finally confronted him together, showing up at his office with a lawyer, David's carefully constructed world imploded. The man who'd always had an excuse, an explanation, a way to talk himself out of any corner, had nothing. He looked from Sarah to Jennifer and back again, and for the first time Sarah saw real fear in his eyes. "You can't do this," he said. "I'm the father of your children." "That's the only reason we're not pressing charges," Jennifer replied coldly. Because Sarah and Jennifer had made one final decision together. They weren't going to destroy David publicly, not for his sake, but for their children. Emma, Lucas, Nathan, and Lily didn't deserve to have their father dragged through criminal proceedings. They didn't deserve to know the full extent of his betrayal. But that didn't mean David got away with it. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Both women filed simultaneously, presenting their joint case to the court. David lost everything. The house where Sarah lived, the house where Jennifer lived, most of his assets, and his relationship with all of his children. But more than that, he lost his power. The power that comes from keeping secrets, from controlling the narrative, from making 2 intelligent women believe they were losing their minds when they questioned him. Sarah and Jennifer made sure every woman in David's orbit knew the truth. His colleagues, his neighbors, the women he'd been trying to charm at the gym. They didn't do it maliciously. They did it as a warning, a public service announcement. This man is not what he seems. Today, 3 years later, Sarah and Jennifer aren't best friends. They don't have matching tattoos or take family vacations together. But they text regularly. They share custody advice. Their kids have play dates. They've built something new from the wreckage of what David destroyed. Something honest, something real. Sarah learned that the opposite of betrayal isn't revenge, it's truth. And sometimes the people you think are your enemies are actually the ones who understand you best. She learned that strength doesn't always look like fighting back. Sometimes it looks like reaching across a divide and finding an ally where you expected to find an adversary. Most importantly, she learned that she was never the problem. Not her body after having children, not her personality, not her worth as a wife or a mother or a woman. The problem was always David and his inability to treat anyone with the honesty and respect they deserved. If Sarah's story resonates with you, if you've ever questioned your reality in a relationship, trust that feeling. Your instincts are trying to tell you something. And remember that the strongest thing you can do isn't always the most dramatic. Sometimes it's simply choosing truth over comfortable lies. Sometimes it's building bridges instead of burning them. Sarah's life didn't end when she discovered David's secret family. In many ways, it began. She went back to school, finished her master's degree, and now works as a family therapist, helping people navigate exactly the kind of crisis she survived. Jennifer opened a daycare center where she can bring her children to work every day, building the financial independence she never had with David. And David? He's living alone in a one-bedroom apartment, having burned every bridge he'd built with lies. His children visit him occasionally, but the relationships are strained, broken in ways that may never fully heal. The truth has a way of coming out, always. And when it does, the only question that matters is what you do with it. So if you've been moved by Sarah's story, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories that prove reality is stranger, more heartbreaking, and more hopeful than any fiction. And drop a comment below telling me, would you have done what Sarah did? Could you have found strength in the last place you'd expect to find it? Sometimes the most unexpected decisions lead to the most powerful transformations. Sarah's story proves that when life shatters everything you thought you knew, you don't have to put the pieces back the way they were. You can build something entirely new, something honest, something that's truly yours. And that's a kind of victory that no amount of lies can ever take away.